Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, a spotlight on two queer documentaries, Calls from Moscow and Angel 69. That and more on this special funding drive episode of Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Segato.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp with the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a special journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto, and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada and Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on feedspot.com. So today, a spotlight on two LGBT documentaries. Award-winning filmmaker Luis Alejandro Yero brings us his debut feature documentary, Calls from Moscow, a film about four queer Cubans whose cultural alienation by nature of their sexuality and foreignness is compounded by sub-zero temperatures and the specter of war. Plus, the first feature-length documentary from queer filmmaker Theo Montoya, Angel 69, a film that blends both documentary and narrative filmmaking. A little bit about the documentary. A funeral car cruises the streets of Medellin, Colombia, while a young director tells the queer story of his past in a violent and conservative city. And in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. And on this episode, I'm featuring some Canadian disco, as well as some queer jazz, and more. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 352 through Rainbow Country. But first up, I wanted to let you know that my Big Brother Canada Season 11 coverage is soon coming to an end. And on my next episode, I'll have the top 3 right here on Rainbow Country. By the way, the finale of Big Brother Canada Season 11 airs on Global TV Thursday, May 11th, 9 p.m. Eastern. And to check out my latest exit interviews, simply visit marktara.com and hit the Big Brother Canada banner. So our first stop through Rainbow Country is what I like to call the Rainbow Country School for Canadian Gay History. And on today's lesson, from activist, author, and historian Tim McCaskill, Canada's gay and lesbian liberation movement of the 1970s.
In the 60s, before the internet, to find each other, queer people needed to actually get together in real space and real time. Since most places didn't tolerate our kind, depending on where you were, your options could be limited. Large cities might have a few specialized commercial spaces, But in the absence of those, it was basically public washrooms, parks, or house parties. They all had their downsides. Commercial spaces required you to spend money, and that's one of the reasons why they were mostly for men. Even in places as big as Toronto, there was seldom more than one lesbian bar at a time. Lesbians earned about 60% of the male wage and probably had more dependents. The economy just wasn't there. The old adage was, gay men go to restaurants, lesbians hold potlucks. Washrooms and parks were also pretty much boys only and could be dangerous, plus parks in the Canadian winter, not so good. You could freeze your willy off. House parties, you needed to know somebody, or know somebody who knew somebody, and so on, and be invited. In terms of commercial life, Montreal had led the pack, developing a Sin City reputation during Prohibition in the U.S. in the 1930s. And where there's sin, there's always a place for us. Toronto the Good and Vancouver took a bit longer, but in 1974, Toronto had enough anonymity and a critical mass to produce a small commercial scene. At first, it was mostly straight bars where we were tolerated in a corner as long as we behaved. Next came a few straight-owned venues that served gay clientele. By the mid-70s, a new class of gay entrepreneurs emerged and started to open up on Church Street where rents were cheaper. But not everybody lived in Toronto or Montreal. In smaller centres, where businesses couldn't meet community needs, the lesbian and gay liberation movement of the 70s came up with a new model. Defy economics and do it for ourselves. We might not have a lot of capital, but we did have free labour. For example, the Lesbian Organization of Toronto established a non-profit community centre in a ramshackle old Victorian house in 1977. It held dances and brunches and drop-ins and provided meeting spaces and a coffee house and hosted a phone line for a whole generation of women. Loot, as it was known, was following a strategy already developed elsewhere. In Saskatoon, the Zodiac Friendship Society opened its community centre in 1973. Edmonton and Calgary soon followed suit. HALO, the Homophile Association of London, Ontario, started in 1974, and the Halifax Gay Alliance for Equality first began running dances in the Turret in 1976 and later turned that into a community centre. By the end of the decade, there was a network of lesbian and gay groups providing community spaces in dozens of medium-sized centres across Canada, volunteer-run and community-controlled. This is Tim McCaskill, a gay liberation dinosaur from another planet and author of Queer Progress.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, calls from Moscow. Luis Alejandro Yero, hi, how are you?
I'm fine, here in Cuba at the mountains with my students of the cinema school.
I understood. So I take it that most people call you Yero?
Yes, most of the people call me by my last name.
Okay. So I'll
only my mom's call me by Luis Alejandro.
I have to say, Yero, thank you so much for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about your debut feature film, Calls from Moscow. Calls from Moscow. Essentially, what is this documentary about, Calls from Moscow?
Calls from Moscow is a kind of portrait of four queer Cubans migrants living in Moscow. We create some kind of we rent an apartment in the periphery of the city, and we invite them to shoot in there by 2-3 days there, and the film is like they are in department for a day. So it's some kind of approach to their loneliness, their rudeness, in the middle of this hostile space that is such a city and country. Russia is one of the country with the worst politics to the queer people. And it happens that we were shooting just a week before the beginning of the invasion of Putin to Ukraine. In some way, this made part of the film. And later, when I back to Cuba, I start to make some kind of conversation with them, worry about the situation there in Russia and how their lives continue after the outbreak of the invasion. And this conversation makes part of the film. So in some way, I also make part of the film as a character in the movie. So it's a film about the meaning of home, how to find a home in hostile space. And this hostile space is also because there are queer people, Cuban people at the other side of the world. So everything is against them, and also in the middle of an invasion to another country. So that is, in a very general way, what it talks about. My film comes from Moscow.
So these men, these four men, they're part of the LGBT community. They're living there in Moscow. Why? And they're Cuban. Why are they there originally?
Russia is one of the very few countries of the world that don't ask for a visa to Cuban people. So since like let's say since 5 years ago, when this new politics appeared, a lot of Cubans traveled to Russia to buy things to later resell the highest price in the Iceland. And also, with some of the people travel there with a dream to make a new life there in Russia without knowledge what it means to be a migrant. Russia, I think I lived there almost for 3 weeks. I feel I have the idea that this country very, let's say, rude to the foreign people. When Cuban people go there trying to make a new life, of course, they have to deal with some kind of wall that they can pass. And other people try to travel there with the idea to cross to the European Union. Of course, many of these people that travel there, they get like trapped in the country. And at the end, they became illegal immigrants, trying to make a life there in a very precarious way. So that is the reason why the characters of the film, the protagonists of the film, are there living in Moscow. And since, let's say, 2 years ago, I could say the major exodus in the Cuban history. Most of them young people, and they're trying to go to wherever they can. Some people try to go to Europe through Russia, others to the United States through Central America, and also a lot of queer people, let's say, that make part of this exodus. Going to Russia, many of them without information what it means travel there, the politics of there. They discover that they're going to a worse place, especially for queer people.
How did you find these four individuals, these four men? Did Are they friends of yours? Do you know them? How did you find them?
No, I was, as I say, I was living in Moscow for 3 weeks. I traveled there to make research. Just before, I was like a year researching, interviewing, talking with a lot of people through video call. When I arrived to Moscow, let's say, I have some kind of networks of known people. Um, I started to going out, to chatting with people through Instagram. Of course, Grindr for a queer filmmaker is a great tool of investigation and a great tool to know people. I met one of them through Grindr. I was there trying to connect with queer Cuban people living there, and the other was through social networks, a friend on a friend, and that was the way I met them during these 2 months of research that I had in Moscow before the shooting.
You mentioned that during filming, Russia invaded Ukraine. Did it make you nervous being there in Russia filming during the start of this war?
Yes, of course. It was funny because I arrived to Russia December, and since that month there was the news from the Western media. My friends, there was like, hey, people say that Putin is going to start a war. I was in Moscow. Of course, I didn't watch Russian TV because, first of all, I don't know any word of Russian at all. But in the city, it was like nothing was happening. So I don't pay much attention to the news because I was like research absorbed by the work. And suddenly, when we end the shooting of the film, like let's say 4 days later, the war Putin make the announcement of the movement of the army to Ukraine, and the invasion starts. I was with my producer there, the cinematographer. Got back to Barcelona, where she lives in Spain, like 3 days ago, and suddenly the flights start to cancel. I remember that we were to the Red Square, and it was like a huge silence, and it was like the police just around the Red Square, and there was some kind of demonstration, manifestation of young people. It was like the Russian SWAT, taking people I don't know, supposed to prison for some days. And of course, it was very scary to be in a foreign country at the beginning of an invasion. We run away as soon we could. I back to Havana, my producer to Berlin, and at the other day to arrive Cuba. All the flights between Cuba and Russia were canceled, and that was for a year. So if we don't run away immediately from Moscow, perhaps we spend I don't know how many months we will be there in Russia. So yes, it was a great experience. It was like running away like Indiana Jones, with the big ball behind us. I also got COVID, so I traveled with COVID. It was like a great escape. But well, we made the movie and we survived.
So, Yero, you are an award-winning filmmaker. What got you into filmmaking in the first place? How did you get into filmmaking?
I think since I was a kid, I have this interest for cinema. My father is a filmmaker. Since I was like a teenager, 12, 13 years, he put me to watch Birdman, for example. So I grew up, thanks to my father, watching a lot of films. I started to create this cinephilia to movies. I can't remember in which exact point appears the idea of I want to become a filmmaker. That was a decision, some kind of some point of the when I was a teenager. I studied journalism first, and then I entered to the International Film School of Cuba to study documentary direction. That's all. That's my story. It's not a great story, but that was the way how I became a filmmaker and my interest for making movies.
So 2018 Mar del Plata Film Festival, Best Latin American Short Film, and the winner is The Cemetery Lightens. This is, I believe, your 2018 short film. What did winning that award, what did that mean to you, especially being like such a new filmmaker? What did that mean to you, winning that 2018 award?
No, it was a very important, also for the prize, for the award, but the short films that I made in the cinema school when I was a student, I get graduated from the cinema school 5 years ago in 2018. Let's say that was my letter of presentation to the cinema world, So I was like very lucky in that my short films allow me to, let's say, introduce myself to the cinema circuit, and I start to travel a lot and to share my films, to know people, make networks of friendship, of collaborations. Precisely that short films, to the lucky to going and to travel to festival, allow me to just continue and make a career as a filmmaker.
So, in Calls from Moscow, these four individuals, these four men, are they living in the apartment all together? Are they there at the same time?
No, that it was, let's say, a kind of dispositive that I made, because when during my research, I discovered that most of them was impossible to that was impossible to shooting in their own homes, because they share a flat with, I don't know, 10 people, for example, or the landlord say no to bring some cameras to the home. So it appears this idea of create some kind of artificial house, so this kind of non-space, and we rent through Airbnb an apartment out in the periphery of Moscow, and we invite them to share 2-3 days in this non-space, simulating that home that we don't have access, and that home that they didn't have. So, and the idea was like filming, like create this kind of phantasmagoric presence that they were in the same space, but they never have interactions between them.
They never interact.
And also that was exactly, and also was the way to talk and the cinematographic form to explore or to this idea of loneliness. This is one of the the worst experience that live as a migrant when you arrive to a new territory.
So the film is doing the festival circuit scene right now. Are there plans to get calls from Moscow out to the general public at all?
Well, let's see what happens with the film. We premiered at the Berlinale like 2 months ago. We are just starting the festival circuit. Of course, it will be great if we have some window to general audience, but of course, it depends of try to reach I don't know, broadcaster or cinema and distributor. That's what we are looking for. And of course, we want to make some kind of alternative distribution through queer space or migrant space. That I think is one of the most important audience that comes from Moscow needs has.
So my last question for you, Yero, is simply this. What do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen this film, Calls from Moscow? What do you hope audiences come away with?
That is a hard question because I think the film has various different audience. And the thing that I like that anyone got indifference through the film. The people, let's say, the people that are in similar situation have a strong identification with the film, and the people, let's say, have the privilege or live in a most comfortable way. They discover and they feel the experience of the people that don't have that privilege, those privilege, or live in a comfortable way. So that is important for me, the identification with the experience, and also the people question themselves about the meaning of home, what it means homes, and how hard for many people in the world, not just Cuban migrants, there are people from Ukraine, from Syria, a lot of displacement here, also in Latin America, that the building making a home is a struggle, and a very hard struggle for them.
Well, I have to say, Luis Alejandro Yero, thank you so much for your time. Well said, well done, well filmed, well made. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks to you, Mark.
Calls from Moscow is doing the film festival circuit scene, but keep a lookout for it when it hits streaming.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, Canadian champion in ice dance and 3-time Olympian, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Terra.
So as you know, Rainbow Country airs across Canada on the NCRA network, the National Campus and Community Radio Association. What do all these outlets have in common? Well, they are all community programmed and listener supported. Where else but on community radio can you hear a show like Rainbow Country, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond? That all being said, I want to share why I think Rainbow Country matters. especially after getting this recent email. A special shout out to a listener who listens to Rainbow Country on CFCR 90.5 FM in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And I'm purposely not mentioning this person's name because of the nature of their message. And here's what they wrote. I'm a 60-year-old closeted gay. I've always denied my orientation, even telling my gay partners that I'm bi. Your show is both entertaining and enlightening, and I very much appreciate what you do. I'm thinking of telling my long-term best friend that I'm gay. This may be freeing, or it may be devastating. I hope things go well. Just had to let someone know where I'm at. I have no gay friends and no one to bounce ideas off. Wish me luck. That's the end of the message. I have to say powerful words. And to this person, an open invite. If you ever want to come on to Rainbow Country and share your story in person, you are more than welcome. So, if you like what I'm doing here in Rainbow Country, if you are able to, I hope you will consider making a donation to these very airwaves you are tuned to. And if you're listening on the edited podcast version, please consider making a donation to an outlet that does carry Rainbow Country. You can find that full listing on marktara.com. Just hit the syndication banner.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
I'm Sky Gilbert, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, Angel 69. Theo Montoya. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. You, how are you?
I am well. I have to say thank you so much for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond, especially to talk about your award-winning film, Angel 69. Is that how you say it, Angel?
Angel 69.
Angel 69.
Yes.
Talk to me about this film of yours and what this film is about. Talk to me about Angel 69 and what it's about.
Okay, first, thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here. Angel 69 is a very personal story. Is the story of my life, the part of the story of my life, the story of my friend, and the story of a movie that I could not make. A movie called Angel 69, and how this movie started to transform in another movie. Yes, this is basically Angel 69, and it's a homage to the cinema and to I think that in another words, it's a letter of love to my friend and to my city.
So I've seen Angel 69, and for me, it seems to be a mix of documentary and fantasy. there's a movie within the documentary, a movie about ghosts having sex with the living,
Spectrophilia.
Spectrophilia.
Spectrophilia, yes.
Would you make this movie, this sci-fi horror movie, would you actually make that movie at some point, do you think?
No, I never did this movie. So for that, I realized that the only way to do that movie was to mix documentary and fiction. Because in a moment, like, the main character that I choose died, and I decided to change this story because I realized that the reality that we were living in that moment was more strong than the movie that I tried to make. And I realized that the only way to make this movie was to be open with the reality and to understand what we were living. I realized that the movie that I wanted to make was this letter love to my friend, because I was talking about ghosts. And then cinema, I think so, if it's a constantly dialogue with ghosts. So I realized that, yes, we are spectrophilics because we are fucking with the image of the ghosts of the cinema.
So no intention to go back to the original intent of your film, and make that sci-fi type horror film.
I think that there are projects is like the only way to make that movie is the way that how I did it, because yes, I think that this is the only way. The other day someone made me this question, and I say I don't know. Because I think that this is the only way. I think that this is the movie. And Hall 69 is the movie that we are watching. There is no way to do another movie.
Mm-hmm. The title, Angel 69, what's the story behind the title?
So, the movie, I choose a friend, and I was really in love of him, and he inspired me a lot. And in social media, his name was Angel 69. And for me, it was a very cool title because it's a duality. It's an ambiguous title because you can read it like Angel or with Angel. And it's this duality between between hell and yes, and then this idea with 69 about pleasure. Angels living in a hell of desire.
So Angel 69 you were just saying it's your story. You're telling essentially your story. Why did you want to make this movie now? Why did you want to tell your story now?
I don't know. I think I don't know.
Did something like spark was something the inspiration for it, essentially?
I think I never decided to make cinema, and my friends were the really artists, and I don't know, I was with them, like hanging out, like watching them, and I started to record them, and then I decided that this material was so powerful and we need to make something, because I really want to show to them that their life are very important. I don't know, was something like that. I think that I was very inspired by Jack Kerouac. When I read On the Road, was a very important book in my life, and Yes, I was very inspired for the Friends of Kerouac and this idea how he wrote the book. And I don't know, was something about that, like to portray a generation and a generation that without memory, I don't know, to show to the other people that, we are existing here. Um, and yes, we are part of this universe. We are part of this world. And how we are living, I think that many people are living around this crazy world. And yes, I don't know, something like that.
The people that you interview in the movie, these are your actual friends, or are these are your actual friends, or are they actors, or what?
They are my real friends. I think this is the most powerful things about the movie. We are watching real people. It's like they are not playing a role. They are talking about their life.
And so that footage of these people being interviewed, is that from 2017, or is that current?
Yes, there are casting in several years.
Oh, okay. It spans several years, those interviews.
Yes.
Okay. Someone in the film says that the film is set in Medellin, Colombia, correct?
Yes.
And someone in the film, in the documentary, says that Medellin is the Mecca for homosexuality. Is that accurate?
Yes, I think that Medellin is the Mecca of many things, and this is the way for that the title. I think it's a fucking duality. This city, it's the Mecca of many things, but then it's totally contradiction. I think it's the Mecca of the contradiction.
Mm. So Theo, you are a filmmaker, a producer, a director of photography. You also have your own production company, Desvio. What led you to create Desvio?
I don't know. I was having fun, and the beginning of this video was I wanted to make films with my friends. So I was making films with them. I was working. I was spending all the salary making films, shooting with them. I was trying to imitate many filmmakers that I really admire in that moment. And I was making films with them. So then Angel 69 and Son of Sodom, because before to make Angel 69, I make a short film to was in Cannes, and was the result of many films that I made before with them.
Did you grow up wanting to be a filmmaker?
It's a very difficult question. I really don't know. In the film, I'm talking about that, and I was thinking this week about this, and I don't know. But yes, I think that I can think in my life without cinema. I think it's the only way that I can really make good in a way. But I'm learning more and more all the time.
Mm-hmm. So Angel 69, it's doing the film festival circuit and has been. You guys received 12 awards so far?
I stopped to count the awards.
Yeah, it's on IMDb, girl, on IMDb. I think you've been nominated for 17 awards and you've won 12. So so here's the question. What is it about Angel 69 you think that's connecting to audiences?
So I think queer is this idea of queer movie, but it's not a queer movie like all the people are thinking. Is like going deep in this idea and in questioning the idea of made of a film, in this idea of mixing documentary and fiction, because the movie is asking to his own sexuality in the cinema industry. And I think it's, I don't know, the people like whatever.
So the movie's been doing the film festival circuit. Is there a plan or a hope to get the film out to, the general people, like maybe on a Netflix or a streaming service, something? Is there that plan?
So the movie is going to be released in cinema. So it's going to be released in Spain, Germany, Colombia, I think in France. And I don't know, I think that, yes, I can say no. If Netflix come to me and say, we want to show your movie in our platform, I'm going to say yes. But I don't think that they are interested in that kind of cinema, because it's a very particular movie. And I think that they are interested in other ideas. I think that this is part of the movie. So the movie is talking about minorities, and this movie is a minority in the industry. And I think that is like an ovni, it's an alien. And I think that this is something about this film. But yes, I think that could be cool if many people can watch the film, but not. So we are going to make cinema in other way.
So how do you feel about it opening in, like you were saying, Germany and France and Spain and all these countries and the theaters? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very cool. So me, like a child was part of his dream, like I was imagined to premiere in a cinema, like to watch a movie, like to watch my movie or something something mine in a theater. And I think it's very, now I'm more worried about the thing that I'm going to say to the people. It's a huge responsibility, I think so. And I don't like to have a lot of responsibility, but yes, it's part of the job. I don't know, it's like part when the movie is going to be released in these countries. I think that then you need to think and you need to say important things. And I'm very bad saying important things.
You're saying sexy things.
Thank you. I need to speak a better English, because my English is very bad.
The design of your ghosts in this movie, did that take a long time to come up with, or was that always the plan? How they end up looking in the film?
Like, what do you mean? Like the costume?
Yeah, like how they look in the, because they're all like dark with like glowing eyes. Was that always the design for them?
So it's like, this thing is like a homage. It's a mix of directors. It's a real homage to cinema. So there are it's a cocktail of filmmakers. And the ghosts are an inspiration of Apichatpong in Uncle Boomy. Have you ever seen this movie?
What's the name of it?
Uncle Boomy. Uncle Boomy.
No, I don't know that film.
So it's like Apichatpong is a Thai director. He's from Thailand. And I think that he's perhaps one of the most important filmmakers alive. He's making the cinema of the future for me. And
so he inspired the look of the ghost for you?
Yes, because Uncle Boomy is like a movie is telling the story of a guy who is dying and start to watch Ghost. So it's an inspiration of him, but then it's like there are some mothers. There is a collective of mother to lose their families in for the government, because in 2000 in a neighborhood in Medellin, like the government entered to this neighborhood with the army and with the help of paramilitary army, and they say that they were going to kill the guerrilla people, but they kill many civil people, and these people is disappeared. And this mother create like some shadows that you can see in the movie in a moment, like this installation of shadows in the yes, there is an installation of shadows. So it's a mix between a performance of these mothers and a pichapon. So because the shadows of these mothers are without red eyes, and there are with a stick. I don't know how to say, like they don't have light in the day. And I was thinking, what happened if the shadows start to live in the night and they have red eyes? So it's like this mix is like this homage to a pichapon, but is this homage to these mothers in Medellin, and it's like a mix of concept.
Mm-hmm. Are you in the coffin?
Yes, I'm in the coffin. This is me in the coffin.
Was that scary being in there?
So yes, fucking scary. It's like this is another thing about Angel 69. So Angel 69, more than a movie, like a classical movie. I have never been to the therapy. I have never been, in therapy. And for me, like cinema, that kind of cinema allow you to confront your fears. And for me, that was it's a very big issue in my life.
Death is a very big issue. It was a very big issue for you.
Yes. And, I was talking and many friends were dying. Mm-hmm. So to put me in a coffin was to confront many fears. Mm-hmm. So in a conceptual way, it's a movie to is talking with dead friends, and the only way to talk about dead friends is when you are dead. But was an inspiration of another filmmaker to create this concept of psychomagia, psychomagic. And psychomagic is this idea to confront your fear with a performance. So this idea to put you in the coffin and to record your death is like, it's a way to confront this fear. Mm. And then to transform this fear in another thing, because at the end I open my eyes. And then it's like the meaning of it's like cinema is only life. Cinema is only life. This is a way, it's an explanation. But yes, we are life, but death is an invention of humanity too.
I loved it when you opened your eyes at the end, because I'm like, ooh, is this girl going to fly out and become a vampire now? My last question for you, it's simply this. What do you hope audiences get when they see Angel 69? What do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen your film?
I don't know. I think it's a very difficult question. And I think I never think about audience, because I made this film especially for me and my friends. And I think that we are happy with the film. Then about people, like other people, I don't know. And I think it's not good when you start to think in this way. I think that it's not a film for miles and miles, for thousand and thousand audience. It was more a personal thing, and then it's another issue.
So how do your friends feel about it?
They were very touching. Like, I think that they really, I told you that I create this film especially to show them like how their life are important and how their life are like, are, yes, how, I don't know, like how to show them the beautiful assistance that they have and how they are shining and how there are rockets in, like,
show them their worth and what they mean to you.
What do you mean? Like we did, like.
No, your film is essentially showing your friends their worth,
yes,
and what they mean to you, how
yes,
important they are to you.
Yes.
Mm. Well
And
done, well done.
Thank you. But they were very touching. So yes, they were very touching. They were, yes, were very beautiful to show the film to them.
I have to say, Theo, Montoya, thank you
Montoya,
so much for your time.
Montoya.
Did I say that right?
You were saying Theo Montana, almost. Montana.
Oh, so
it's okay.
Montoya.
Yeah.
Montoya?
Yes.
You okay. Say it.
It's difficult. Yeah, it's Montoya. It's good.
I have to say, thank you so much for your time. Well said, well done, well made, well filmed. Congrats on your film. Well done.
Mark, thank you. And thank you for the invitation. And for inviting me to be one of your guests.
And Heel 69 is currently doing the film festival circuit scene, but keep a lookout for it when it hits streaming.
Bill 7. To ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com where everything is connected and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, despite all the craziness in the world these days, know this, that we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Eric Radford, Olympic and world champion figure skater, pianist, and composer, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.